Previously, on the world of Wanana, the group of legendary heroes consisting of Ruku, Salal, Groz, Nemeia, and Yaotal, along with Ruku's companion, the Dwarven Earth Mage Orm, set sail to the Land of Fishman in search of the sixth hero. The heroes were attacked by a gigantic sea chimera from the land of monsters. Things looked bad for a moment, but thankfully, Shalryn, the sixth legendary hero, appeared surfing on a stream of water he created using his water magic. Shalryn managed to assist the heroes and provided Ruku with enough time to unleash a powerful fire attack, which resulted in the heroes defeating the oceanic threat. Now, our heroes follow Yaotal's ancient map to the Land of Giants, believing the final hero may reside there. What adventures await our heroes in the Land of Giants? Let's find out on today's episode, Shadows of the Past. Our heroes landed in the Land of Giants just mere moments ago. Along the way, they were met by several low-level sea chimeras which escaped through the ever-weakening magical barriers surrounding the Land of Monsters. The heroes easily handled these threats and managed to gain some valuable experience along the way. Their practice against the giant sea beast from several days ago seemed to pay off. Ruku began questioning himself, trying to figure out why he didn't have one of his famous visions after meeting Shalryn. Normally the group would follow his visions, but when none came, Yaotal had an answer. The group followed Yaotal, whose ancient map pointed the way to this distant territory, thanks to her ancestral magic. The terrain in the Land of Giants seemed quite harsh and rough from offshore. When the heroes landed, they were met by a rocky terrain unlike any they had ever seen, and a wave of heat emitting from the many natural volcanoes. As the group proceeded to walk, Orm noticed that Shalryn didn't seem quite himself. "How are you holding up, Shalryn? You don't look so well. Fishmen don't do so well in the intense heat. I'll be alright once I get my hands on some fresh water." Just ahead of Orm and Shalryn, Salal noticed something that caught his eagle-like eyes. "Would you look at that? Simply incredible." Everyone turned to see what Salal was looking at. A giant ant was walking across the terrain. It came closer to the heroes, unaware of their presence, and proceeded to walk past them. After the giant ant had passed, the group noticed the abundance of animals surrounding them and going about their business unaware of the heroes beneath them. Yaotal had her sketchbook out and began drawing the wonders that surrounded them. Ruku's head began to hurt and he began wincing. Nemeia and Groz noticed first and approached him. "Are you feeling alright, Ruku?" "It can't be the heat, right? After all, you're a fire mage." "Thanks for worrying. My head is just hurting a little. It must have been from that long trip out at sea. Seriously, I'll be... Ruku began seeing flashes of visions take place one after the other. It started off with the vision of Ruku at age 10 picking out his magical tome. The surroundings and the vision itself seemed a little off to Ruku. He was picking out a magical tome at a magic shop, but he distinctly remembers being chosen by his magical tome during a mage entrance exam. The vision quickly shifted to Ruku as a student taking an introduction to magic class by Professor Nemeia at Brewhaven University. This was odd to Ruku because the only thing he remembered about Professor Nemeia was meeting him for the first time on field test day after he woke up in the strange world. The vision shifted again, only this time it was of him and the other legendary heroes wearing colorful armor. Ruku in his orange armor held his hands up towards the Land of Monsters. Nemeia in her pink armor, Groz in his red armor, Salal in his purple armor, Yaotal in her green armor, Shalryn in his blue armor, and a foggy image of the final hero in their yellow armor, all doing the same thing. Ruku started speaking, but the words were all muffled and incoherent. Then, his eyes met a shadowy dragon figure with glowing purple eyes. It roared, and Ruku quickly opened his eyes and noticed the other heroes surrounding him. Orm helped Ruku back up to his feet. "You gave us a scare, Ruku. Are you alright?" "I don't know, Orm. I can't tell what's real and what's not anymore. I'm having visions from 1,000 years ago which feel very familiar. Then I get bombarded by other visions of living in this time that make no sense to me. I don't know what's going on, and I'm scared that I might be losing my mind. Perhaps we can set up camp nearby. This way I can whip up a meal to calm your mind and your nerves. How does that sound, Ruku?" Ruku looked up at Nemeia's soft smile and began feeling more at ease. He took a deep breath before he spoke. "That sounds great, Nemeia. Thank you." As things were calming down, the heroes noticed the large animals running away. Then the ground began to rumble, and the rocks began to shake. The heroes could see it coming from a mile away. A giant purple monkey began approaching from the west and was heading straight for the heroes. The heroes prepared to face the coming threat. As the giant monkey got closer, Yaotal noticed something strange about the creature.
"It's another chimera. It's a mix of a Zaraboon, Ambifist, and a primal apex. We must proceed with extreme caution.
Don't be silly, Yaotal. There are 7 of us and only 1 of him. A large shrieking sound from above began to disorient the heroes on the ground. When the shrieking stopped, the heroes could see a giant bat with rose-colored wings flying overhead. Is that bat on fire?
This is not good. Another chimera.
If I'm seeing things correctly, I would say this one is a mix of a Swabatian, Moltrix Firewing, and a Crobian Dart. You're not going to want to hear this, mates, but it looks like we are being targeted by another chimera. Off to the north, a giant flaming boar was charging towards the heroes. Alright everyone, let's divide and conquer. Orm, you and... Suddenly, a sharp pain inside of Ruku's head caused him to collapse to the ground. Ruku! Nemeia rushed over to Ruku on the ground. He was holding his head and gritting his teeth very hard. My magic worked on you last time. Perhaps it will work again. Nemeia touched Ruku's temples. Energy began flowing through her fingertips into Ruku and he drifted off to sleep. What did you do? Don't worry, Orm. I just used my magic to calm his mind. Everyone listen. We must protect Ruku. Groz and Nemeia, you two take care of the monkey. Shalryn and Orm, you get the boar. Yaotal and I will handle the bat. Work together and we will win. Without hesitation, everyone followed Salal's orders. Groz and Nemeia went to fight the giant monkey. The monkey was close to 60 feet in height. It had purple fur surrounding most of its head and torso. It had muscular legs that had no fur, but oddly had metal anklets on them. The arms on the giant monkey were black with green bands around the wrists. Most unique about the simian was the fist attached to the end of its tail. Groz was beyond thrilled because he was looking for a worthy opponent. With his giant axe in hand, Groz jumped into the air and swung down on the monkey's shoulder. The fur was as hard as steel, and Groz's axe recoiled after the strike. Nemeia was beginning to get the hang of her magical abilities, and wanted to see if she could help amplify Groz's strength the same way she helped Ruku when he faced off against the giant sea chimera. Nemeia ran over to Groz, but the monkey used the fist at the end of its tail to attack Nemeia. She managed to evade the fist, which left a big crater in the ground. Groz continued to charge in and attack, and Nemeia wasn't sure she would be able to assist Groz. Unlike the other heroes, Groz didn't care much for strategy. He only cared for the thrill of the fight. Nemeia wasn't sure he would give her the time she needed to see if her magical abilities would work on him. She also wasn't sure if she could be of any use in this battle. The self-doubt began to fill her, and her desire to fight began to fade. She looked over at Groz, who was enjoying the battle, and then at the others who were giving it their all against the large threats. Nemeia then looked over at Ruku on the ground, and knew that she couldn't just stand there feeling sorry for herself. Nemeia had something worth protecting, and needed to find that courage to give it her all. The monkey began kicking and striking with all its limbs. This made it difficult for Groz to find an opening. When Groz would evade a kick or a punch, the tail would then come into play and knock him back. This didn't slow Groz down in the slightest. He quickly regained his footing and then charged in again. Groz, I think I can help you. Let me amplify your strength with my magic. Groz couldn't hear her. He was too focused on the battle to notice anything else happening around him. Nemeia attempted to charge in again to help Groz, only this time the hand on the tail swooped her up and clenched her body tightly. This was enough to get Groz to snap out of his lust for battle and regain his senses. Nemeia! Just hold on, I'll save you! Groz tried his best to get Nemeia, but the monkey was too quick and too strong for Groz. Groz took a kick from the chimera that sent him skidding across the rocky terrain. His chest armor was cracked. He broke several bones, and purple blood began pouring from the cuts across his body. The pain Groz was experiencing was excruciating, and he honestly welcomed it. He hadn't shown the others his magic before, because it had 2 requirements. The first involved his body in severe pain, and the second required him to bleed a lot. Groz began screaming and grunting. The black tattoo on his right arm began to glow white and spread across his body. The purple blood began to flow back into his body, and his bones began to snap back into place and heal. The muscles in his body began to expand large, and steam began to lift from his glowing skin as heat began to circulate throughout his body. Nemeia, being squeezed, could hardly believe her eyes. She didn't know Groz had magical abilities, and by the looks of it, it was very similar to her support magic. You better get ready, monkey, for I'm filled with rage. Feast your eyes on my berserker magic! Groz's leg muscles tightened as he began to crouch. Then he launched himself at a tremendous speed and punched the chimera square in the chest. The blow was strong enough that the chimera released Nemeia as it fell unconscious. Nemeia managed to fall gracefully and landed safely on the ground. Are you okay, Nemeia? Yes. Thanks for saving me. You have some incredible magic, Groz. It's not as great as yours. The side effects of using this spell leave my body with no energy. In a few minutes, I won't be able to move. This wasn't the first time Nemeia's companions told her about how great her magic is, but this was the first time that she realized how important it is for her to master her own abilities. She didn't want Groz to suffer from the backlash of using his berserker magic, nor did she want the others to not feel strong enough to face the threat still ahead of them. As Nemeia noticed Groz's glow slowly fade, and the black tattoo returning to his arm, she replied, "Don't you worry, Groz. When we finish taking care of these chimeras, I'll whip you up a meal that will leave you filled with energy." Salal was on a purple cloud flying with Yaotal. The giant bat with rose-flamed colored wings flew too quickly for Salal's cloud to keep up with. Every time they got close, the bat would screech a deafening sonic shriek and attack with its blazing wings. Salal was good at maneuvering in the sky while on his cloud by himself. When adding another person, it proved to be a little difficult to dodge attacks, as his feathers and clothing became a little scorched from the chimera's attacks. Yaotal wasn't used to being in the air. As a serpent-folk, her advantage was always on the ground. However, in her day-to-day life as a ranger, she had climbed on the backs of some wild griffins, and this cloud surfing was no different. The major difference between her life as a ranger and now would be relying on others. Yaotal was so used to doing things on her own. Needing to rely on others was not a strength of hers, but even she could see that the only way to defeat the giant bat was to do so together. Salal's keen eyes could easily track the chimera's speed, but he had no way of landing a critical blow on the beast while it was moving quickly in the sky. He knew his blasters would be beneficial in the long-range attacks, but Yaotal had a sword, and he couldn't see how she could get a good strike on the chimera unless she could land on its back. The major deterrent to this thought was the fact that the giant bat had flaming wings and tails, so Salal pushed the thought back.
Salal, I have an idea. It's risky, but if you can somehow manage to get me close enough, I think I can slow down the chimera long enough for you to finish it off.
As a former pirate captain, Salal was used to giving orders. Since joining Ruku and the other heroes, he has learned to take a step back and observe while also taking charge when time was necessary. Salal knew Yaotal was very calculating and strategic from the moment he had met her. She must have thought out several scenarios in the time they had engaged the chimera. Putting faith in his companion, Salal replied, "I will make that happen, my friend." Salal took out a pair of blasters from his pocket dimension. He began firing off shots at the beast, which only made it angrier. The bat flapped its fiery wings and began closing the gap between them quickly. "It is coming closer. Get ready."
You don't have to worry, Salal. Just watch this.
Yaotal began pouring her ancestral magic into her sword. The glowing green blade flickered with sparks of electricity.
Disruption. Slash.
As the chimera flew in readying to chomp down on the heroes, Salal managed to act swiftly by flying underneath the giant bat. Yaotal's attack managed to slash the creature's chest, and what happened next shocked Salal. The chimera was frozen in place with green sparks flying off the area Yaotal had struck. What was that?
The chimera's past, present, and future have all been disrupted by this attack. It's essentially frozen temporarily in time. It won't last long, so I suggest you finish it off with one of your giant blasters.
Salal could see that Yaotal had the same thought process as he did about their strengths. He pulled out his blaster cannon from his pocket dimension. He readied his shot and fired. Kraken Buster! The fast-moving cannonball surrounded by violet light blasted the chimera out of the sky. The large explosion sent Salal's cloud back a good 20 feet in the air and knocked the giant bat out cold. The giant bat fell from the sky with its wings and tails extinguished on its way down to the rocky ground. Now that's what I call teamwork.
Great job. Now let's see how the others are faring.
The giant boar had a giant mammoth-like build. It had giant tusks and flames wrapped around its head. The chimera stomped its feet on the ground and began to blow fire at Shalryn and Orm. Orm managed to put up a rock wall which stopped the flames in their tracks. Quick thinking. What's the plan to stop the beast? Great question. My water magic isn't as powerful with all this heat. We may need to rely on your earth magic to finish off the creature. Maybe we can split up and try to confuse it by attacking it from all directions. It's worth a shot, mate. Shalryn and Orm ran in opposite directions. Shalryn created water whips to strike at the boar. This enraged the boar. As it began to move towards Shalryn, Orm sent a barrage of sharp rocks at the chimera. The chimera began to scream and change directions. Shalryn pointed his finger at the giant boar and readied one of his strongest water attacks. Liquid Rifle! A water bullet released from Shalryn's finger and struck the temple of the boar. The attack was less powerful due to the high temperatures in the region. The giant boar then headed for Shalryn. This time, it jumped high in the air when Orm attempted to strike it with earth magic. It seemed to be adapting to their strategy. Shalryn, be careful! It's onto our plan! Don't you worry, mate. The monks I trained under taught me a powerful technique for handling large creatures. It's very risky with very little water, but I think I'll survive it. Orm watched as Shalryn grasped the bead necklace around his neck. His eyes were closed, and then he began to move into a fighting pose. The air around him turned light blue, and the beads of energy around the air moved around both of Shalryn's fists. He looked calm as the rampaging boar closed the distance between them. Orm wondered what kind of attack Shalryn was about to perform that he might not be able to survive. He worried about Shalryn, who he only met days ago, but Orm believed deeply in the strength of the legendary hero, and had to trust his new friend would be fine. Sea God's Fist! Shalryn disappeared momentarily from the spot he was in. Several images of him appeared around the chimera. Each one of them produced 100 lightning-fast punches. The images disappeared, and Shalryn reappeared in the same spot he originally stood in. He put his two hands together and bowed his head. The boar's eyes rolled behind its head as the flame surrounding it extinguished. Then its mouth began to foam, and the chimera fell to the ground with a large thud. What did you... Wow! Thanks. It's a technique that took me 20 years to master, but it takes a lot out of you if there isn't enough water around you. As the words came out of Shalryn's mouth, he began to collapse. Orm managed to catch him and lay him down gently. Looks like everyone is wrapping things up. I guess we'll be able to rest up for the night. Orm looked around the campfire and noticed how banged up everyone was looking. Groz and Shalryn depleted their energy, and Nemeia was working on cooking up a meal to fix that. Yaotal and Salal seemed fine. Both were keeping an eye out for other potential threats. Ruku, on the other hand, was still fast asleep. Orm worried for his best friend and hoped that he would be fine when he awoke. Ruku, lying on the ground sleeping, was not fine. The visions he experienced while awake were beginning to intensify in his sleep. He could see visions of shadows overtaking a sphere of light. He saw the shadows forming into a shadowy dragon with glowing purple eyes. The same dragon from his earlier vision. Ruku knew this could only be Terax, the Dragon King from the Land of Monsters. The Shadow Dragon began speaking to Ruku. Elf, it is only a matter of time before I break through the barrier. Prepare yourself to die. Ruku tried speaking, but no sounds left his mouth. The vision changed yet again. Ruku could see the world on fire with plumes of black smoke filling the air. He saw different colored armor scattered across the open field. Immediately, he knew. Then the voice of Terax spoke to Ruku yet again, this time forming from the smoke above. You do not belong, Elf. I will set things right once we meet face to face. A terrifying laugh echoed, and Ruku slipped into another vision. Just outside the camp, things were becoming uneasy. The whistling sounds of the wind were met with rustling sounds on the ground. The group paused and fell silent. Snarling sounds were heard next, and then Salal saw it, a large grin with jagged teeth. The creature was moving in slowly. It's the shadow creatures from Nemeia's bar. One of the shadow creatures came in from behind Salal and bit his arm and then ran back into the shadows. He quickly grabbed a pistol from his pocket dimension and began firing into the darkness, not sure if a single bullet reached its intended target. 3 more shadow creatures used their tendrils to attack Orm, Nemeia, and Yaotal. Then before they knew it, 5 more shadow creatures showed up. We are completely surrounded. The shadow creatures attacked relentlessly over the next hour. Orm managed to buy the group some time as he surrounded them with the rock wall. I don't know how much longer we can keep this up.
I can't manage to find a weak spot. What are these creatures?
The first time we encountered these creatures, they were being controlled by a shadow mage. That's right. That must mean it's nearby. The only way out of this is to find the shadow mage and defeat him. Easier said than done. We're all exhausted from battling the chimeras. Now this battle has been dragging on for some time now.
Let's not forget that we are also trying to defend these 3 as well.
Yaotal pointed over to Shalryn, Groz, and Ruku. The rock wall began to shake as the shadow creatures began attacking it from around the perimeter. The rock wall began to crumble until nothing was left to defend the heroes. Then, the tendrils from the shadow creatures attacked the heroes. One tendril smacked Ruku, and blood began trickling down his face. Ruku awoke with his eyes glowing. The shadow creatures backed away as they saw Ruku floating into the air along with his magical tome. He began reciting words in ancient Wanaian. The magic spells that were locked away in his magical tome began to reappear. Ruku shouted out a spell that Orm recognized as his infernal violet attack. Ruku waved his arm, and the 9 shadow creatures burst into purple flames. The flames remained lit until the shadow creatures were completely destroyed. Ruku floated back down to the ground and his eyes returned to normal. What's going on here? The hero stared at Ruku, puzzled by what had just happened. Orm filled him in, but Ruku had no memories of the events that were described to him. He began to realize that the events that occurred tonight couldn't have been a coincidence. They must have been specifically targeted. By the looks of things, the Shadow Mage is clearly working closely with the Land of Monsters. The purpose was unknown. Nemeia decided to finish up the meal she was preparing. Everyone enjoyed the beef stew she made, including Groz and Shalryn, who were regaining their energy. Before the heroes went to sleep, the stew in the pot above the campfire began to glow. It was Professor Thanalos sending an oracle call. The professor looked like he had just survived a fight of his own. Heroes of Wanana, I have an urgent message. Listen to this message very carefully. The barrier cracks, not from without, but from within. Trust, not the hands that guide you. I hope you understand. The fate of the world is at stake. The call ended abruptly. The tension in the air was thick. Everyone looked around at one another, trying to decipher the cryptic message left by Professor Thanalos. One thing was clear. Final battle was soon approaching, and the heroes needed to locate the 7th member before it was too late. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This episode was jam-packed with art that I had fun creating, and let's not forget that cryptic message by Professor Thanalos. It is certainly going to play a big role in the next 2 chapters, and I just can't wait. Any guesses as to what Thanalos is trying to say to the heroes? Leave it in the comments down below. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like the video and let me know which art piece was your favorite. As always, I'm drawing with Mr. Sepulveda, and I'll see you all in the next video. Y'all take care of yourselves. Have a good one. Bye-bye.